The opinions and statements in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show, where the experts offer you educational information from local experts in the field of legal health, financial, and home improvement. Join us every week at this time for great educational information from lawyers, doctors, contractors, and specialists in their field. Sit back and enjoy the next hour of Ask the Experts.
Good morning. Thank you for tuning into another Ask the Experts. We have got a great show today. The show is live, so if you'd like to call in with questions, you can give us a call at 888-329-3306. About a year and a half ago, we had calls from our listeners saying, how come you don't have a workers' comp show on? And, you know, in some parts of the country, workers' comp is not as big as other parts, but in Pennsylvania, it is huge. So we put out a flyer for a workers' comp attorney, and I have never had law firms want this category. And our guest, who's been with us, like I said, for about a year and a half, is one of the finest workers' comp attorney in Pennsylvania. We were so lucky to get him. Let me introduce you to our longtime guest, attorney Michael Cardamone. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Good. You sound great.
Thank you. Good to be with you again.
You know what? I got to tell you that even to this day, we get calls from attorneys going, how do we get, I mean, these are workers' comp attorneys. Why is it that workers' comp law is so much more important than others around the country?
That's a good question. One thing, just an obvious sort of fact, is the fact that Pennsylvania is a pretty large state, and we have a lot of people living and working here, and therefore you have a lot of people working and getting hurt. So I think that's part of it. Also, Pennsylvania is a more fair forum for injured workers than some of the surrounding states like Delaware, New Jersey, New York. We have what's called a loss of earning power system here in Pennsylvania. So it's more fair. An injured worker can be on workers' comp checks for a lifetime, theoretically. Doesn't happen very often, but the system, the statute, I should say, in Pennsylvania is very fair. Some of the other states, you'll get like a designated amount of weeks of pay, regardless as to how it's affecting your earning power. And in Pennsylvania, Steve, it's different. If your injury is causing a loss of earning power, then you'll get compensated. And that can go on for years and years. So a lot of people try to get their cases into Pennsylvania because the statute is generally friendlier to injured workers than, you know, some of the other states.
Well, Michael, really important because we get new listeners. We tell everybody about yourself and about your firm.
Well, I went to Villanova Law School. I went to under college. For high school, I went to St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia. After I passed the bar in 1999, started practicing law, and I was with a couple different firms. Opened up my own firm about 7 years ago. We exclusively handle workers' comp cases for injured workers. Makes us pretty rare. I think there are a couple other firms that only do workers' comp, but there's not many in Pennsylvania, so we sort of pride ourselves on being, specialists with workers' comp. We don't dabble and do other things. We'll refer out our cases that aren't workers' comp. We have it's a small boutique firm. We have our main office now in Lansdale with Saddle Bell, Allentown, Lancaster, and Philadelphia. So we love it. We love what we do. We're very efficient. We're very accessible to our clients. And, so we enjoy what we do, and hopefully we'll be doing it for a much longer time.
Well, Michael, because people knew you were going to be on this week, we got about 15 emails. I think 12 of them were all the same. You know what I'm going to say? They all want to know, what if you get COVID at work?
Yes, that's a very popular question given the pandemic. So COVID is absolutely something that you can pursue. If you believe you contracted it in your workplace, that's a work injury. The insurance company for the employer will absolutely do their investigation, try to point the blame at other factors. And it's difficult, obviously, because the virus is invisible. But yes, you can pursue it as a work injury. You'll still have the same burden of proof. You basically have to show within reasonable medical certainty that the contraction of the COVID virus was work-related, and any disability is related there too. How do you do that? Essentially, it's two-pronged. You'll present the testimony from your client and also from a medical physician, from a doctor. So, you basically pursue the case like an orthopedic injury or other type of workers' comp matter. They are being fought, of course. That's what workers' comp does on the other side of things. They like to contest claims. But yes, absolutely. In theory, it's just as viable as any other condition. If you were exposed to asbestos at work, or if you were exposed to mold and you had respiratory issues, it's still a work-related injury. And so is COVID too, if you can prove it.
Is it going to be hard to prove, Michael?
Well, it really depends. I know that sounds like a lawyerly answer to kind of...
But this is new, so I understand.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you're a frontline worker, there's more of a presumption of work-relatedness. If you were working in a hospital, a doctor's office, in food production, things that kept going, even in the heat and the heart of the pandemic, you were more likely to be exposed. Or if you worked in an enclosed space, some of the meat packing factories, there's cases there where there was an injured worker or injured workers who were tightly packed in, almost like sardines. And once one person got it, 100. So you're going to have an easier time if you can prove you're in one of those categories. And the strength of the case will depend on the strength of the medical evidence, essentially. So you want to make a doctor who believes, based on all the facts, that yes, that's where you were exposed to it.
Okay, so that should answer everybody's question. So you'll want to call Michael's office. Michael, give everybody your phone number.
Sure, it's 215-206-9068.
And I think before we get started also is a lot of people don't know how you charge, and that it's all based on basically you winning. Is that right?
It is. It's a contingent fee system. So nobody shows up having to give us any money. There's no retainer fee. There's no billable hours. It's contingent. And what that means is if we secure wage loss benefits for the injured worker, then the judge will award 20%, or if there's a settlement. Or if somebody's already on workers' comp and they come to us because the employer is alleging they're either recovered or they have an earning power, if we defeat that petition in court, the court will award 20% of the checks, either weekly or biweekly checks, to the law firm. So it's a nice system because it levels the playing field. It allows people who otherwise wouldn't be allowed to fight for themselves because they couldn't afford it to show up, have an attorney, and somebody fight for them against the insurance company without having to fork over any cash out of pocket.
So Just, I mean, if you think you have a work-related injury, you call Michael's office. They're not going to ask you to pay them any money. You're going to sit down and look at their case, and you're also going to tell them if they have a case or not.
That's right. Yes, we pride ourselves on being 100% brutally honest because, people appreciate an answer, whether it's yes or no, because even if the answer is no, they can move on and either say, okay, I can sleep at night, I looked into it, or try another firm and get a different opinion. So we try to make that decision fairly quickly, and sometimes we can do it just based on the facts that they're relaying to us, and other times we need to dig a little further and get some of the medical records and piece the puzzle together. But yes, we'll tell people, yes, you have a case, we're happy to roll with it, or no, we're sorry, we can't help you. And again, people, they just want an answer, whether it's
right,
in their interest or not. They want to be able to move on and just, move forward with their lives.
How does one apply for workers' comp benefits in Pennsylvania?
That's a great question too, because a lot of people have this idea that there's some like application. There's no official application. Essentially, the key here is notice. You have to give notice to your manager, the owner, a supervisor, whoever you're supposed to give notice to. And that's usually sort of a common sense thing. But you have to tell them, written is better than verbal, but verbal still counts, that I got hurt at work, this is what I injured, this is what I was doing, and this is when it happened. Usually the employer will then turn around and have somebody fill out an accident report, and then they'll turn it over to their workers' comp carrier. They'll do an investigation, and then within 21 days, technically, that doesn't happen very frequently, but they're supposed to make a decision within 3 weeks of notice whether they're going to accept, deny, or temporarily accept a claim. So notice is the key. And that becomes a very contentious issue, because if you don't give notice within 120 days, you have no claim. And you can't pursue wage loss benefits until you give notice. So the sooner the better in terms of notice. And a lot of times the employer will claim, we didn't get any notice. And if it's verbal, it comes down to a credibility issue between the injured worker and a fact witness from the employer. So usually it's better if somebody can text or email their supervisor or owner and state what happened, or just confirm what happened in terms of their conversation. This email confirms that I told you I was hurt on such and such date and I was lifting and I hurt my back, et cetera. And that way they can't contest that notice issue.
I'm sure there are people out there that think they're going to save themselves money by handling a work-related injury by themselves. But, the insurance companies, they're just to pay the least amount. But in this case, do the insurance companies tend to also drag their feet, especially if you don't have an attorney?
They love if somebody doesn't have an attorney, because they'll pretend they're best friends with you and try to advantage of the fact that they know the law, and most injured workers don't. Even with a lot of research, the workers' comp laws just become so complicated. So the insurance companies, in general, if somebody's not represented, what I see a trend in them trying to actually settle the case quicker before somebody realizes, hey, wait, I should go talk to an expert here, because they can capitalize.
But you leave money on the table doing it.
Oh, yeah. Most injured workers will double or triple their money with an attorney. And it sounds self-serving. It's just...
it makes sense.
And, and the judges will tell people at the first hearing, if they're pro se, they're representing themselves, the judges, and they have their own unique style with it, of course, but most of them will say, sir or ma'am, just you get an attorney, I'll give you 30 days and we'll continue the case. So you can, you have the right to do it. You can absolutely do it on your own, but they kind of give this stern warning, because, it's like a fish out of water. People don't know how to take a deposition, and what questions they ask the doctor, and they have no idea once it gets past that initial pretrial hearing what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, you can do it on your own. That's not advisable. That's a quick way to lose money.
Can a person apply for unemployment comp while waiting for their workers' comp decision?
Yes, and sometimes on its face that seems like they're mutually exclusive concepts, but they're not. Because is by applying for unemployment comp, you are affirming that you're able and available to work in some capacity, even if you have 10 restrictions and you can't lift more than 5 pounds and you can't sit more than 10 minutes without needing to move. Sometimes the employer in a case doesn't have any light duty work. So let's say somebody was a truck driver, they have a back injury, and the employer says, we don't have any paperwork or desk work, so we're sorry, we have nothing for you. But by applying for an employment comp, that's not inconsistent because you're saying that I am available to work in some capacity. It's just that I'm not working because the employer doesn't have anything light duty. So, but if people get unemployment comp, that will come out of the workers' comp money if you end up receiving workers' comp checks. So there is a credit. And the idea, of course, is they don't want people making more money not working than working. So it makes sense.
Right.
But it's money now versus money later. For a lot of people, they can't wait for 9 or 12 months for this thing to play out in workers' comp court. They need cash now. And so a lot of people are sort of forced to apply for unemployment comp because it's a quicker turnaround,
Wow. Hey, Michael, we're going to go to break now. Give everybody your phone number and your website address.
Yes, the phone number is 215-206-9068, and the website is cardamonelaw.com. That's CARDAMONELAW.
Okay, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we will be back with attorney Michael Cardamone with more great information on workers' comp law.
The Cardamone Law Firm is an extremely rare law firm that dedicates 100% of its strong representation of injured workers under the Pennsylvania Workers' Compensation Act. Attorney Michael Cardamone is an outstanding work injury lawyer with 5 convenient offices throughout Pennsylvania from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh and will make home visits upon request. Attorney Michael Cardamone has been recognized by the Best Attorneys of America, Super Lawyers, Top 100 in Pennsylvania, and has a perfect 10 out of 10 rating on Avvo. Attorney Cardamone brings his fighting spirit to each and every case he works on to safeguard the rights of people injured at work. The firm possesses the skill, experience, and resources necessary to go head-to-head with any defense firm or employer. Cardamone Law has defeated dozens of multi-million-dollar companies. Call Cardamone Law 7 days a week at 215-206-9068 for a free and comprehensive consult. That's 215-206-9068 or go to cardamonelaw.com.
And we are back. This is the Ask the Expert show. We're with our expert attorney, Michael Cardamone. Michael's been with us about 1.5 years now. It's one of the hottest topics of all the topics we do, workers' comp. And I got to tell you, because we have shows all over the United States, and one of the things I've learned about attorneys is when you just practice in one area of law, all your concentration goes there, you've got a great attorney. Not saying there's anything wrong with if you do personal injury and criminal law, but Michael just concentrates on workers' comp. So that's a huge check mark. Michael, I mean, don't you agree with me that how important it is that you just concentrate in one area?
I do, and I think I made this analogy on a previous show. If you had a back injury and you had a choice of a surgeon, and you had one surgeon who only does back surgeries, And then you had another one who was a general orthopedist who does knees and hips and shoulders and everything. Nothing wrong with going with the general practitioner. They can be perfectly competent, but you're probably going to maximize your chances at a recovery or a good outcome if you select the doctor who's only doing back surgeries. I mean, it's just sort of common sense that if somebody is specializing, there's probably a better chance they have, a more acute understanding of the law and the nuances, and those little details can add up in a case pretty quickly. So there are people who do workers' comp and do other things, and they can do it fine. But, we believe that we can do it a little bit better because that's all we do.
Well, we just got a text from a listener because, we also, our signal goes into New Jersey. Do you take on cases in New Jersey?
No, we only do Pennsylvania work comp, so we'll refer those out. It's a different statute. So, yeah, it's completely different than the Pennsylvania law.
Okay, so now, again, if you have relatives anywhere in Pennsylvania, or you have a friend, someone has a work-related injury, this is the perfect show. This the attorney. It doesn't cost you anything to call Michael's office. Go in, and you don't have to even go in, do you, Mike? You could Zoom in.
No, we do a lot of consults over the phone, and or if people want to do a video, that's fine. And there are some people, an increasing amount as the pandemic relaxes a little bit. Anyway, it's not over. It's trending overall in a pretty good direction. So people are, more willing to come in and meet with us. But if they're a little bit leery, that's perfectly fine. We can talk over the phone, and we either, mail out our documents, or we email them and they scan and return them, or we have DocuSign. Really easy. It's an electronic signature. They don't even have to print anything. So we just make it as easy as possible. And sometimes clients want us to come to their apartment or condo or their house, and we'll do that as well.
There's so many people out there, Michael, who will tell you, I tried to do this myself. I settled too early, and I'm so sorry I didn't get an attorney. Again, there is no excuse. You can't say you didn't have the money to hire an attorney, because that's not how Michael charges. But
that's right.
I'm telling you, if you have a relative, and I know this is sounding like a commercial, but I endorse Michael, basically. If you've got a friend who's been involved in a work-related injury, don't let them do it themselves, and have them, they can get the workers' comp attorney just like anybody who's wealthy can. So
yeah, really, it's a sorry to interrupt, but yeah, it's a level playing field, and this is somebody's earning power on the line. It's one of the most important facets to their life, and to not get a consult with someone and it's free. There's no charge, and
exactly.
Somebody's double or triple the money that they have on the table, because sometimes they come to us with an offer already in their pocket, and we only will have a fee on increases. That way they can only make money by getting a lawyer involved. We wouldn't take a fee on the entire amount, just on the amount of the increase. So there's no downside for an injured worker to get help. They don't have to have any cash, and sometimes they're able to double their money. And the insurance companies don't like that, but that's their goal is to pay out as little as they can on every single file.
And they're very good at it too, aren't they, Michael?
Oh, they're very good at it. They'll do it with a smile, and they'll do it, pretty quickly. And at the settlement hearings, we have settlement hearings in Pennsylvania, and the judge or the attorneys will ask the injured worker, "Are you sure you want to do this? Are you doing this voluntarily? Are you under the influence of anything today? Is that your signature?" And you get locked in, and it makes it almost impossible to appeal it And so we have people come to us saying, oh, I settled and, it was this amount of money. And then I hear the facts of their case and I'm, grinding my teeth thinking, oh my God, their case was worth
Right.
$300,000 and they settled for $50,000. So it's really important to get that consult. And there's just really no downside to it.
Michael, are taxes taken out of workers' comp checks?
No, it's we have to be careful because we can't give accounting advice as when you're not an accountant. But it's generally known that it's reportable income but not taxable. So there's no taxes that will come with comp checks or the settlement.
And what if you're denied workers' comp? Is there any way to appeal it?
Yes, and so people will get intimidated. So once you give notice, that will trigger the 21 days where the insurance company has to make a decision. If they deny your claim, that's not the end of the road. And a lot of people won't follow up. The notice of denial will say, you can appeal this and you can get file a claim petition within 3 years of your date of injury. So if you're denied, then the remedy is filing a claim petition, and that gets the case assigned to a workers' comp judge, and then you'll have your chance in court to to process your claim and put your evidence on.
I didn't even realize there was an actual workers' comp judge.
Yeah,
wow.
we don't have any juries. We get assigned to a judge, and
Yeah.
that can be an important factor in the case. They might be a little bit more conservative, pro-insurance company, bent, or you might get someone who's a little bit more injured worker oriented. And so when you see that notice of an assignment, once you file that claim petition, it'll generate a notice of assignment saying who your judge is. That's part of the one of the factors that you have to consider in the case, because that'll kind of tell you, and most of the judges are fair, of course, but they do have their proclivity to either, in a close call, either bend one way or the other. So that's always an important thing to look at.
I guess my final question is, can you be on workers' comp for a lifetime?
You can in Pennsylvania. So we have temporary total disability, and that basically means you're out of work getting a full workers' comp check. If that's your situation, that can go on. There's no limit on that. That can be for a lifetime. Very rare, though, because most people either settle their case or they go back to work or they get converted to what's called partial disability. And then there's a 500-week, which is about, I think, 9.5 years. There's a 500-week cap on wage loss benefits once you're converted to a partial status. And there's different ways to get converted onto a partial. But so in theory, yes, a workers' comp check forever in Pennsylvania. It's just that in reality, it's very rare. It's probably, 1% of the cases, if I had to guess.
Michael, this is the easiest show I ever do, and God, I would just so enjoy having you on. Give everybody your phone number before we go.
I enjoy it too. It's 215-206-9068.
Please give Michael a call, sit down with him, and thank you so much, Michael. And
You're
we
welcome.
will see
Thank
you again next month.
See you then.
Thanks, Michael. That's Michael Cardamone, workers' comp attorney, and that's another Ask the Expert next week with more. Everybody have a wonderful week here in Philadelphia. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Ask the Expert show today. Join us again next week for more specialists in their field of legal health, financial, and home improvement.